What's going on YouTube? This is Alex from Team Crushing the Meta, and once upon a time, in the very early days of Vanguard, I once quit the game because of Link Joker's locking ability. However, it came back into standard with the Chaos Breaker cards from the new Clan Selection Volume 1, and I have to say it's a lot more fun than when I remembered it from back then. Um, it is, however, a little bit difficult to build this deck. There are a lot of combinations you can make, and I've seen an incredible amount of different deck lists on the internet. So I figured it would be fun to talk a little bit about all the different options we have, what are kind of the pros and cons. So let's get into this video. So these are the basic cards, yeah, these are the ones we've gotten from the Clan Selection 1. And the first thing I did was to build a deck with these cards, just add a little bit of cards like Lady Battler from the White Dwarf in order to search some grade 3s, stuff like that, and just kept it quite generic and with Chaos Breaker Dragon itself as the main centerpiece. Well, the cards themselves are quite self-explanatory, I think. Chaos Breaker himself will allow you to lock one card and it will trigger the stealing of the force markers back, and of course other markers if your opponent plays them. The grade 2 also allows you to lock another card, give your opponent a little bit of a dilemma to work with, and it grants a critical to your Vanguard. And the grade 1 is actually pretty good because it searches your pieces, and 2, it allows you to, in your main phase, unlock so that you can trigger Chaos Breaker Dragon right out of the bat. And especially when you go second and you have given them a force marker at first, they will have gained some kind of marker on their first turn, and you can immediately steal 2 of them back and before your own battle phase will go off. So that's pretty good. And the other cards, Marinelle and Blast Monk, of course, they support the bind face down, so you can keep a little bit more control over your opponent's field. And it kind of works nicely with the lock in general, I'd say. And then crunching the leader variable will allow your opponent's field to stay locked if you so wish to. There are 3 kind of problems I found with this deck when you build it in the generic way. 1, you run out of cards pretty fast, even if you can search them with the Craven Claw. The second thing is you lack finishing power. And the third one is if you go first, Chaos Breaker doesn't have much things to lock and you cannot really get going that very well. And of course against certain matchups like Grand Blue, the Night Rose deck who just throws everything back in the drop zone again, you also don't have any lock targets, so that's kind of a difficult matchup, but those are kind of specific examples, of course. So, logically, you would say that you could combine this with one of the other archetypes from Link Joker, and like I said, we're going to go through them one by one. So the first thing we might think about is playing them with Messiah. And this is actually a pretty good one, because it solves a couple of problems. The 3 below cards here, the Gasserur, Manipulator of the Void, and Van Manen, actually gives you a little bit of a draw engine. You can cycle some card search for the pieces you want. They also, with Van Manen, you can allow you to plus a little bit, so that's nice. You could even choose to play Volco Code, which is always a very nice beater to have. Gives you a little bit more pressure. Not necessarily finishing power, but at least a lot more pressure, because Chaos Breaker Dragon doesn't hit numbers that well on its own. So that's pretty nice to have. And what I particularly like here is when you play Harmonix Messiah, when it first came out, it was already with a little bit of the same problem, which card you were going to run aside it. Because Harmonix Messiah is a turn 4 card, at least you need a grade 3 or greater card in your soul for it to actually work properly. And I'd say Chaos Breaker Dragon is pretty good, because it does allow you to set up a couple of markers, especially where you go second again. And that will really help to make the 4th, maybe 5th attack with your Messiah a little bit more powerful. And then of course, if you were going to run Alter Ego Messiah, you have a very good turn 3 when you go first. And the only thing I would say about combining it with Messiah is, do you not want to rather play purely Messiah? Because I think that is always going to be the better and consistent thing to play, and Chaos Breaker is a little bit lost in this build. But I do say, if you really want to play Chaos Breaker, this is definitely a very good combination, and it will solve a couple of problems you will run into. So, the next archetype is of course the leaders. I'd say the leaders have a couple of advantages as well. First, they do play in to the bind face down mechanic rather well when you would choose to combine it with the regular cards. So the field control aspect is there again. And Gradle actually has a pretty good finishing capability because it will gain critical, and you can attack with it twice when you have given on the field. So again, with the marker setup, if you go second, that's pretty nice. You could even choose to run some different grade 3 deleter if you want to have a better turn 3 where you go first, and then run Chaos Breaker as your second option. You might do that. You do lack a little bit of the power then again, but still might be an option. For me, the big problem with the leaders is, at least with the English version, we lack a couple of very, very good promos that we absolutely need, and I think that's why the leaders doesn't do as well as Messiah does in standard anyway, or V standard I should say right now. Let's go over the Japanese cards pretty quickly. This card, Bile Deleter Jeroel, to be short about it, it allows given to be activated much easier with only one card to be regarded as 3 rear guards at once. So if you have 2 of these, then you can activate given without even calling anything, using anything from your hand. I think this is very needed because, like I said, Chaos Breaker Dragon on itself really struggles with their hand size, and given will eat into that even more. So without this Japanese promo, I do hope that we get it in English, and I will try to build the leaders and Chaos Breaker myself. But for now, I don't really think so. This is also a Japanese promo. I do believe we have gotten this month. At least I've seen them around a little bit. It's a little bit less needed, I'd say. But it's still a very good card because it does provide the 10k. So it can help again with a little bit more pressure. Just help the numbers a little bit and take away some more of your opponent's hand. So definitely a very good card. And the middle card here, Duanalus, if you're going to run the bind face down cards, this might also be a card that allows you to hit a little bit more numbers. You don't even necessarily need to run this in the deleter version. You can also run it in the generic version, of course, if you so choose. So then we have another interesting archetype. I always love this one personally, purely for the memes. It is Brunt. I'd say Brunt has an advantage that is also a disadvantage at the same time. Because, like Chaos Breaker Dragon, this is more or less of a separate archetype, which can be run alongside any of the other Vanguards. For example, if you have Later Look on the rearguard circle and you have a Chaos Breaker Dragon on the Vanguard, it doesn't necessarily have such major disadvantage, because if you do check any Stark Hulks, then at least the Later Look will get some power. And the same would go for the Chiral, the grade 1 you see here in the middle, like the grade 1 for the Star-vader support. It can search your pieces separately from the Chaos Breaker stuff, of course, but it can also search pieces. So they are quite nice, but the disadvantage of this very same thing is that they are both completely different strategies, so they don't really play well into each other. And especially when you run Brandringer, as soon as you place the grade 4, you can never go back to Chaos Breaker, which is a pretty big thing. And again, I love the memes, but in the end, of course, this is just a meme deck. I think it's pretty fun to do, But I would say that running it with Messiah or Deleter in the end is a better choice. And then there is another one which I've seen, and that is a Cyber Dragon build, because Schwarzschild Dragon and a lot of the support and a couple of other cards that you can see here on the screen, they are all Cyber Dragons like Chaos Breaker Dragon and the other things. Which means that you can look for Chaos Breaker Dragon with Gravity Collapse Dragon. You might turbo into that, for example. When you roll Gravity Ball Dragon, it might help you to hit a couple of numbers. At least the 23k mark a little bit easier. And I'd say Nordstrom Dragon is a pretty good card as well. It gives you a counter charge. It is also a Cyber Dragon, so even with Chaos Breaker Dragon you can run this in the generic build as well as a backup grade 3, or at least another rear guard. It also works, of course, in the face down binding mechanic, so that's nice. And if you would combine it here with Schwarzschild, it also helps Schwarzschild, of course, like the generic face down bind stuff would eventually do. It also helps Schwarzschild. But of course the big disadvantage here is, again, like with Bronze, Schwarzschild plays in a completely different strategy. Might be a little bit of finishing power if you combined enough, but I don't really think that it will add too much to the Chaos Breaker Dragon per se. And I also think that it is still a bit gimmicky. I don't think it's just very powerful enough like Messiah or Deleter would be. And you know, I've played the Binodal and the Binodal Dragon here on the screen as well. But also, you know, it is nice that you can give a Battle Door effect to your Vanguard. But again, quite gimmicky. And without any power to back it up, I don't think this will do a lot. But still, it is fun that they're all Cyber Dragons. At least Schwarzschild will have support from Chaos Breaker Dragon. So a very, very old Link Joker deck that has been released in the first set, for when Link Joker first came out, will have a completed version. You might consider that, but yeah, don't know. Not a big fan of this myself. But, like I said, these were all the options that we have, and it has been fun to play around with this and test some of this stuff out. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Again, subscribe, like, and as always, really, I do love the comments, so please keep commenting. And I hope that I've given you a little bit food for thought for this video to make your own decisions on what to run with Chaos Breaker Dragon. So until next time, this is Alex, and goodbye.